What can be bought and sold but doesn't exist? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So often the big question that people have within sports trading is, where are the odds going to go? If you trade time, you know exactly where the odds are going to go. You know exactly what's going to happen to the odds, and you know how long it's going to take for the odds to get there. The only thing that you need to be aware of is there are underlying values within those sports that can influence that, but you can adjust your trading strategy to take account of the level of risk that you want to take. You can also dictate the amount of profit that you want to make from time, because you can plot things. Use tools like Soccer Mystic, for example, to be able to plot the amount of time left and how that's going to influence the odds. That can decide how long you're in the market, how much risk you want to take, and what impact any underlying event will actually have on the market. But the great advantage of trading time is it's definable. You know the level of risk that you're taking, you know how long it will take to get the payoff that you're requiring within that particular market, and you absolutely know what direction it's going to go in. And that's why trading time is such a good strategy. So there are a few things in life that are certain: death, taxes, premium charge, but also time. And time is something that you can profit from when you're betting on an exchange. The concept really is that everything has time value. So if you look at a football match, you're looking at a game that's going to last 90 minutes. And if you're looking at other sports, then they will last a number of different times. And it's this collapse in time, this gravitation to zero, that will allow you to profit. Basically, it's perfectly possible to buy and sell time, and you know the direction of time because it always goes forward. And in a football match, for example, time will always go from 0 to 90 minutes, or maybe 93 minutes with a bit of added time. But basically, as the match progresses, you get less and less time remaining in the match. So the odds must adjust to reflect the amount of time that's left in a match. Probably the best way to understand time is to look at a 0-0 draw. So if you look at football, you've got a really good way of describing what goes on within time. Because if you were to back 0-0 at the beginning of a match, and then you get to half time and there have been no goals, then the odds would have shifted. Typically, on average, they shift from about 12.5 to around 5 over that period. So you could back at 12.5, lay at 5, and profit from the difference between the two. But there's been no goal within the game, so what's happened? Well, all that's happened is that 45 minutes have elapsed and there's less chance to score more goals. So yeah, football is a good example of where time value kicks in. Now, of course, there could be goals, so we have an underlying value to take account of, but you can nip in and out of the market in seconds if you wish, and during the match there'll be different periods of time decay. So probably the easiest thing to understand about time decay is to look at a football match. That will give you a clear indication as to where time decay is occurring. We know it's going to occur in one direction. We know that time gets less and less over the course of a football match, and that has to be reflected in the odds. If we take a match that's 0-0 and we back 0-0 at the start of the match and it's 0-0 at half time, 45 minutes has elapsed within that particular match. So the only thing that's changed in that match, if it's 0-0 at half time, is that there is less time left. 45 minutes has decayed, has gone, has vanished, time is getting shorter, and therefore when you look at the odds between the start of the match and the middle of the match, what has actually changed there? The only thing that has changed is the amount of time remaining. That has to be priced into the odds, therefore the odds will be much shorter, and therefore you will profit by buying that at the beginning of the match and selling it at half time. You would have sold 45 minutes of time. Now, of course, there's a risk there that a goal will be scored, so you have to take that into account. But in essence, we're looking purely at time value there. You also get matches, you also get markets like the under 2.5 goal markets. They will start to decay from their starting price to 101 immediately the match gets underway, and that decay will continue because of time all the way through the match. Even if there is a goal, as long as the score remains under 2.5 goals, then the time will continue to decay until the end of the match. So time decay in itself is a strategy all unto its own. Lots of people trade time decay in a number of different ways, but it's very dominant within football markets. So when you're backing 0-0, you're saying there are going to be no goals whatsoever. But if you back under 2.5 goals, you're saying that they're going to be under 2.5 goals. And the instant you back it, within the first minute, the odds will start declining from around 2, and then they will continue that curve all the way down to 101 until the match finishes. So you can actually nip in and out of the under 2.5 goal market during quiet periods in the match, or identifying a match where there's very, very little activity going on within the match. And if you're in and out of the market within a short period of time, you'll almost certainly profit. So that could be for the whole match, could be for 1 minute, could be for 5 minutes. You decide how much risk you want to take on that. But the benefit of an under 2.5 goal market and buying and selling time within that is that you're actually looking at a broader goal. You're saying, I don't think there are going to be many goals in this match, and therefore I'm going to benefit by buying and selling time as that occurs. But the great thing about the under 2.5 goal market is even if a goal is scored, then of course that just resets the underlying market value somewhat, and then the decay continues, and it gets even faster as the match continues. So as long as the match is going to end under 2.5 goals, then you can benefit from buying and selling time all the way through there. And even if a goal is scored, it doesn't necessarily mean that your trade is dead. If you think under 2.5 goals is risky, shift to 3.5 or 4 if you want to. But of course, the amount of value in those markets is slightly less. But nonetheless, the under 2.5 goal market is a good way of buying and selling time within football. Now, of course, you can ask yourself the question of should you buy or sell time at 10 minutes? But if you buy time at 10 minutes, you know it's going to decrease to 5. Time only goes in one direction. It doesn't go backwards, as far as I'm aware. So necessarily, you always know that time's going to decay from 10 down to 5, and that the odds have to move to reflect that. So what better way of profiting on something where you know where the direction is going to go? All you have to worry about is how long you're in the market and what risk that entails. Now, if we look at a match in the last 10 minutes, say it's 1-0, and there are only 10 minutes left, and the home team is fairly dominant and then the away team hasn't really done much, then there will still be value in the market. You could probably back the home team at maybe about 1.15 or something, and that last 10 minutes you'll see that little 15% or so left in the decimal odds decay away with time. Now, if there's 8 minutes of added time, that's not so great, so you don't really want many injuries or stoppages as well. But again, time decay occurs there, but on a much smaller scale, but you tend to find it occurs much more rapidly as well. So the concept behind trading time is quite simple to understand. If we've got 10 minutes left in an event, and then that decreases to 5 minutes, you can buy time effectively at 10 minutes and sell it at 5 and net the profit between the two.